Welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And I am here today with, I would like to describe him as the best kept secret in magic. He's one of the busiest working professionals that I know. And you might not have even heard of him, even though he's brought out some fantastic releases over the years. I am here with Marc Lavelle. How you doing, Marc?
Craig Petty, how are you? You good?
Marc Lavelle, I'm great. I'm so glad that you found time. Like, honestly,
I should point out that that was an accurate statement pre-COVID.
yeah,
The
but
last year,
even
not so
then,
busy, but
even then, you just told me off camera, yeah, you're flying over to the Maldives in a couple of days' time to do a gig, and when the rest of the country is pretty much locked down, and then over New Year's Eve, when everyone was sitting, including me, was sitting on their ass doing absolutely nothing, you're flying over to the Maldives again. So even in COVID,
I had so many messages, just like, I'm not even going to say the words because obviously censorship, but yeah, just had so many messages going, you beep, whatever. Friendly messages, I
yeah,
think, for the
but
most part.
but that sums it up. I mean, yeah, you've probably been kept busier than most during a national lockdown, which tells you something. But outside of lockdown, I mean, you're always all over the place. Not just in magic,
I'm
but
hoping it'll come back. I'm hoping it'll come back.
yeah, I'm positive.
Although my car hasn't seen much wear this year, which is odd. My mileage when I did my taxes, it was like, oh yeah,
It's crazy, isn't it?
some people have benefited.
It really is crazy. But you know what? Let's just assume that the world's going to get back to normal at some point soon, and we're not going to turn into an episode of The Walking Dead.
I'm prepared for that, by the way,
Are
if
you?
it happens. Yeah, I've got a contingency plan.
Where would you go if zombie outbreak affected the world? What would you do? What would your plan
Well,
be?
first stop Costco.
Makes sense.
Yeah, get up on supplies, and then I found this nice little place. I walk around Birmingham city centre, and we're quite literally close to each other. You're just up the road essentially. And I found this place near Brindley Place, and it's almost like an island, right?
Mm.
And there's like this massive apartment complex on there with garages underneath, parking complex underneath, and they're all barred, right? So that would be where I go. I'd blow up there's two bridges. I'd blow up the bridges. You're then surrounded by canals, and you're close enough to make runs into Birmingham for supplies. So yeah,
I love how you've thought this through. You really have.
I actually have thought this through several times.
It's amazing.
You know, March, April last year, I was like, I don't know where this is going, but I have watched a lot of Walking Dead, and it usually starts like this.
So if zombies take over the world, we're coming to you.
I could probably, sort out about 150 people, I reckon.
I love it. I absolutely love it. But
There's a waiting list.
Assuming that doesn't happen and we go back to normal, I know that what will happen is that you will continue to be just as busy as you were before, because one thing that you've mastered, and we'll talk about this down the line, is you've mastered the art of networking.
Oh, well, coming from you, that is a big compliment.
You have, dude. You know everyone. Everybody knows you. Like, I've been interviewing so many people on this channel, and everybody knows Marc Lavelle. It doesn't matter who I speak to, I can speak to. And the nice thing is, even though you know everyone and you're so well connected, one of the things that strikes me about how awesome you are is you treat everyone the same way. You could walk up to the biggest name in magic, and you could walk up to somebody at a convention that's there on their first day of getting into it as a hobby, and you would treat them with the same level of respect.
You know where that might come from? And I've only just, like, when you were saying that, I've only just realised. I think most of that actually comes from Ian Mack.
Really?
So, yeah, from like bit of backstory about us two. We met at World Magic Shop.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman there called Ian Mack, who others might not do.
And created puppets, doesn't he?
Yeah, he now does puppets. Yeah, and he was always the front of house. Whenever I walked in there, he was always the front of house, and he was the type of person. Like, before finding World Magic Shop, the only interaction I had with other magicians was talking to myself on Talk Magic. No one ever responded to me on there, apart from Dynamo. Weird story there. But yeah, and I walked in, and Ian Mack was there, and he always just gave me as much time as was needed. And I think if it wasn't for that friendly interaction, I probably wouldn't have kept going back as much as I did, and then somehow end up working there. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure that probably boils down to Ian Mack as well as my own
Well, he is a
weird
really
personality.
nice, friendly guy, isn't he? He really
Yeah.
is. But it's so nice that you do speak to everybody and you do treat everyone as equals. It's wonderful because you don't see it. You know, I talked on the channel recently about elitism in magic, and you do see it
Mm,
from time to time. You know, kind of the cliques where people
the
kind
clicks.
of are dismissive, and I've never seen you in a clique. Or I've never seen you. You're just welcoming to everybody, and that.
Yeah, you don't know who, I might have an idea and you don't know that some person that you may have tried to dismiss might have something that could better your idea along the line. Or, I've made loads of friends in Magic that I've shared ideas with and they have helped me elevate that idea. And I'd like to think vice versa as well. I can help other people out and, co-work on projects and such. I don't see people, I think some people, and I don't think it's just magicians, I think some people always see others in their industry as instant competition. Um, I'm not of that mindset.
Perfect. Well, let's start at the very beginning, Mark. When did you get into magic? Was it earlier on in life? Was it later on in life?
I was a bit of a late bloomer. I wasn't like one of these 5, 6 year olds learning magic. I didn't grow up with my dad doing magic, apart from obviously the French drop. But I think it was maybe 2002, 2003 ish, where I first started, learning how to shuffle a deck of cards. Originally, it wasn't for magic. I learned how to shuffle a deck of cards because my aunt could do a perfect riffle shuffle, and I wanted to do that. So I set some time aside and I learned how to do that. And then I realised just by complete accident that I was controlling cards. I was like, oh, wait, something in this. And then I was in Florida and I went to a place called Theatre Magic, which is you would have heard of. You might not have been there, but it used to be in Universal Studios. I've bought some stuff from there, Fire Wallet, Levitator, all that sort of stuff. And then I started learning from there, and then I went down the route of buying trick decks of cards. I literally used to have uh, like a chocolate tin full of different trick decks of cards, which was crazy. And at the time, I was working at a paintball site, and I used to carry this thing in my bag, and then we'd all go to the pub at the end, and I'd pull out a deck of cards and I'd do a trick, and it really weirdly, just one of the pub regulars who we were in the same pub after work every day. One of the pub regulars was like, "Oh, I'm getting married next week. Do you want to come and perform at my wedding?" And I'm like, "Huh? What?" So I was like, yeah, all right. So I went to the wedding. I limited myself to bringing 4 trick decks of cards. I got paid to do a wedding. I got paid more for that. I think it was like at the time, maybe like 150 quid. Like, I was like, I don't know. And he went, oh, he said it was a ton and a half. All right. I'm like, yeah, all right. And that was 3 times more than my day's wage at paintball site.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, I like that. Have
Yeah.
me some of that.
Yeah, right. So did you then kind of, because obviously as far back, well, not as far back as I can remember, but for a long time you've been a working pro.
Mm.
Did you then start becoming sort of a semi-pro at that point and kind of go, well, I want to start,
Um,
or
there was a bit of a crossover period. I was still working at the paintball site. I'd done a few weddings, just snowballed off the back of that one. And then it was when I was at World Magic Shop, I met you, and you asked me to cover one of your residences, and I hadn't done restaurants before. And I think I said to you, I was like, I've only ever done like maybe like I think I had probably like 20 gigs under my belt at this point, but they're all cheap weddings for in social clubs and mates of mates and mates. Um, and then I ended up doing a bunch of residencies for you,
remember.
and you put me on a lot of gigs actually. So you gave me some massive trench time. So yeah, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Backdated, thanks.
But let's not skip over the World Magic Shop thing, because for a
Yeah.
while you were the face of World Magic Shop. Like you were the person that they saw when they came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The in person. Well, yeah, there was me and Matty. Ian had moved on at this point, I guess. And yeah, me and Matty pretty much were shopkeepers there, I guess.
How did you
Um,
get the job? How did you
I
get?
think I just didn't turn up one week to buy something, and they rang me and went, "Are you all right?" um, and they offered me a Saturday job there, which I think this was where the crossover happened, because I used to work paintball in the paintball industry, which was mainly weekends, but I also had some roles during the week. So the paintball site I was working at the time was over at the Heart of England Convention Centre, and it was early mornings. It was like I had to be up at 5:30 in the morning to go and pick up a van full of paintball equipment in Nuneaton, and then go to Heart of England. There were really long days. I was leaving at 5 in the morning and sometimes getting back at like 10 at night. And then they offered me the Saturday job at World Magic Shop, and I think it was like 9 till 3 or something, and pretty much equal pay. And I was like, you know what, I do think Magic might have a bit of a future for me, a little bit more. So yeah, I kind of went down to half time. I was about to say part time at paintball, and then part time at World Magic Shop as well. Then they started adding days, asked if I could do extra days. I was like, yeah, win-win. And it was, when it was in Birmingham, it took me like 15-20 minutes to get there.
Yeah, it was really easy to get there. When
it was very convenient in Birmingham.
Yeah. So you started working at World Magic Shop, and then obviously I was hanging out there a lot because you were there. You were there during the whole Wizard product review thing. Well, I mean,
I remember the first. Actually, I remember, and looking back at it, I think it was probably more of a just to either get this guy out of the shop. This was before I started working there. Either get this guy out of the shop, or we're going to be delayed. And you and Dave were like, "Oh, do you want to come and watch a film? There was a product review," and I was like, "Yeah, that's amazing." and I think I sat in the office and I was sat there watching it. I was like, "Wow!" Got to meet Droopy in real life. I wonder what happened to Droopy actually.
I don't know. Around somewhere.
Yeah, it's probably. Yeah, and I got to watch it in real life. But yeah, I was an avid viewer as well.
Well, I mean, the Wizard Pro Review thing just really, I mean, I've interviewed David Penn recently, and it just
I saw the photo.
Yeah, right. It completely blew up, like way more popular than I ever thought it was going to be, to be honest. And I think a lot of the people at the time thought I was a part owner of World Magic Shop.
I still get that question,
Really?
When it comes up that I used to work at World Magic Shop, they're like, "Oh, how much did Craig used to get paid?" I was like, he never worked there. He was just a host. It was weird.
I just basically did it for the fun of it. I mean, a lot of people are just convinced, and they don't believe me. I'll say it on the channel. A lot of people are like, did you quit? Did you get fired? Did you sell your shares?" Well, no, I was never an employee.
Yeah, I guess it was a bit of an inconvenience when they moved to rugby, because it took a long time to get there.
Yeah, and I don't drive.
Yeah. I know. I used to have to. I picked you up a few times. Yeah. It once took me 6 hours to get home from rugby.
Crazy.
I was like, "This is ridiculous." The M6 was just like complete standstill. But
yeah. But you spent a long time at World Magic Shop, and you saw all of the tricks, and that obviously, and we'll talk about this down the line. But you ended up doing a lot of work with Murphys.
Yeah.
This was probably, your first exposure to, because a lot of people don't see that side of magic.
To the bigger world behind the curtain, yeah.
And there's so very few magicians see how big the whole magic industry is from a commercial point of view. You've been there, I've been there. You've experienced it firsthand, packing orders, sending orders out, seeing
crazy time.
It's a huge machine, right? Did that kind of open your eyes at that point and kind of?
It did, yeah, it really did. I never. I don't think I ever took into account how, and it is still small, but how big the industry was. There were, and how regularly certain people bought certain effects. I could see patterns that, there were. I could, obviously not because of GDPR, but I could probably list 100 people that were buying pretty much everything that came out, and it was crazy. And then it was because of Jim. It was because of Jim Trainer. He kind of got me the step in with the Murphys guys indirectly, because it was at Blackpool. So me and Jim would go outside for a break, which is where I met Titanus. This was back when Titanus had Titanus Magic Production. It was Titanus Magic Production. So it was always me, Jim, and Titanus outside having a break. And then when Jim stopped coming to Blackpool, Titanus used to walk past and he was like, "We're going outside now." Not a question, it was just, "We're going outside now." So I'd go out for a break with him, and then obviously through him I met Kathy, Michelle, and the rest of the team. They interchangeable, a few of them over the years, but Yeah, mainly Kathy and Michelle from Murphy's from there. Have you been to Murphy's, by the way?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible. I
You
remember.
say about how busy like the likes of World Magic Shop is packing orders. When you see Murphy's, it's next level.
I
It's
remember
ridiculous.
Tim Trono inviting me over to Murphy's, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll come. Thanks, Tim." And I remember him saying, "Would you like to see the warehouse?" I'm like, "Yeah, go on then."
Yeah,
And then
right.
just walking to the warehouse, and it's just incredible. And he was walking me up and down the aisle, saying, "Anything you see, just take it."
Yeah. It's
What
like Indiana Jones, isn't
that coin set
it?
there for $700? Yeah, just grab one.
You know,
That's
it's like Indiana Jones where the Ark of the Covenant's kept. It's just like the massive warehouse of magic. It's crazy.
Oh, it really is. It's insane. And I want to talk more about Murphy's in a second.
Mm.
But before I do, so on the time frame, you're working at World Magic Shop, you've got job security because World Magic Shop at the time were
Yeah,
like
it was like
the biggest magic shop in. I mean, they were doing that. I mean, they were just a lot of that was because of the Wizard product review, but they were huge. Like the amount of
yeah.
orders going out was just
Well, and also I think you know, and I might be off the mark, but I think when they were in Birmingham, they had a good community of regular customers that didn't always just come in to buy stuff, but like on a Saturday they'd come in, they'd have a jam, you know, they'd sit around. Coffee. We used to have free coffee when we got to World Magic Shop. They had a coffee machine, and I think it was when they moved to rugby that kind of just faded out because it was inaccessible for people. The nearest train station was like a 30-minute walk. It maybe even more. Actually, no, I think yeah, it might have been like 40-minute walk.
oh, it was a long walk, trust me.
Yeah, so they lost the drop-ins, which was a shame. But yeah, so I think the community might have started to the community that was built around like the people hanging out there. And I'm not on about like hundreds of people, but there was a good maybe like 30 regulars, 40 regulars. But yeah, I think they almost lost the aspect of a brick and mortar shop by moving the brick and mortar shop to another city.
Mm.
But yeah,
And that was kind of the beginning of the end. I mean, I know World Magic
unfortunately,
hasn't ended, but
yeah,
it's
but the
more.
beginning of the boom, the end of the boom.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
when you worked there, you had job security.
Mm-hmm.
None of that happened until after you left. And you'd started doing gigs, like you said. I'd given you a lot of residencies. You were getting a lot of night time. You were going out. You were working, and you already knew a lot of magic, and you knew what made a good trick and a bad trick. Anyway, it's just you needed that experience, which is what you got.
Yeah, trench work.
What made you decide to leave World Magic Shop? Because that was a big deal in the industry. Because you'd literally become the face. Like I say, Dave Penn was always the face of World Magic Shop, but you were the person they spoke to on the phone. You were the person that packed their order. You were the person giving them advice on the other end of the phone. And then
I was asked to leave.
Oh,
I was asked to leave. Yeah, it was. Basically, they just didn't.
you left after I left, didn't you? You left after I left.
It was around the same time. Like
Yeah.
I got asked to leave. Like I'm not going into the massive details of it. Me and Dave are all fine. I haven't and John as well. But yeah, it was like it was a week after Jim's funeral. It was a week after Jim's funeral. And yeah, I mean, like we're not on harsh terms or anything, but I think they wanted to go in a different direction to what I wanted to do. Obviously, gigs were clashing as well. I think I remember yourself and I had a gig in I can't remember the name of the place, but it was like a 2-hour drive away.
It's like Cambridge area. I remember the one you were talking about.
Something ridiculous. And when we went to leave World Magic Shop, I was going to drop you off at the train station first. And I don't know if you remember, but my car wouldn't open, and all my stuff's hanging in the car.
I remember.
And then Andy Leckie, who is Jim's stepson, or yeah, I'm just going to say is, just out of the kindness of his heart, just went, "I'll drive you down there." And he drove us to this gig, which was like it was ridiculous. But yeah, I think there may be some parts that they didn't like about that about that fact.
Yeah, but you left and you started. What was your plan? So you left. You were kind of forced into leaving, but you had a whole bunch of gigs.
Yeah,
But
I mean, like I had I knew my gigs were getting busier. That happened in December time. I knew my gigs were getting busier, and I had actually, and I can't remember if I spoke to you about this, but I had intentions to sort of like drop my hours down a little bit over a course of periods up until the following Blackpool. That was the aim. It was reach February, and then if they're in a position that they don't need me, great. I'll leave it. If they need me to do a few days here and there, then I'll do a few days here and there. That was the intention and the plan. But I had a lot of gigs in that December anyway, so I had to ask for a lot of days off to do these gigs. So yeah, when I parted ways, I had plenty of gigs lined up. I think I was also working a bit with Max Francis at the time.
I was going to say, I remember you teaming up because you did a lot of stuff at Alton Towers, and you did
yeah.
the Christmas thing at
the Magical Journey,
which was a debacle, but not for you, not because of anything you guys did.
That was like one of the weirdest situations ever.
And tell that story, because for me,
so
I'll tell you right now. Before you tell the story, when I always knew you obviously as a good magician, but as you know, I've always run like companies supplying entertainment, and watching you handle that whole situation was what I remember turning around and saying to Russell at the time, because obviously I was still with Russell back then. I remember turning around and saying to Russell, man, I have no idea how Mark and Max have managed to pull that off. How they've managed to come through that shit show and make it through
deliver
successfully, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, a pre-story to that, as well as magic, I ended up, just through meeting lots of different performers, I ended up being asked, "Oh, do you know anyone that does fire? Do you know anyone that does stilts and stuff?" And I started to interact at this point with different performers. So I started supplying to. This was mostly on the nightclub scene. But back to the Magical Journey, it was at the Belfry, which is like a big convention centre in the middle of the UK, if people aren't aware of it. And it was like a winter wonderland, and it had a guy called I can never bloody pronounce it, Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen.
Yeah, that's the
I think
one.
I said that right, something like that. It had his name attached to it, so there was a big, and he's kind of like this grand interior designer thing. I don't actually think he ever went there, if I'm honest. But there was this thing. And I remember in, what was it? Probably at the end of October, because I was basically cold calling like events, like big events, trying to get in the door with them. And I remember ringing them, saying, "Oh, hi, I'm Marc Lavelle. I want to speak to you maybe about providing entertainment for you, blah 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 blah." And they just went, "No, we're sorted." And I spoke to them, like the Magical Journey people. Anyway, so I can't remember the exact date, but I'm sat in bed scrolling Facebook. It's like maybe 7 o'clock at night. I think I've just got back from a gig, and I was just scrolling Facebook, and then I get like a Birmingham news thing going, Magical Journey is a disaster. And I'm like, clicked on that. Obviously, it's got the word magic in it, and I was like, oh, I remember these guys. I was reading it, and like I was seeing the pictures, and it was like, Dismayland. Have you heard of Dismayland? Yeah, it was like that. When the Dismayland thing came out, I was like, they've just got inspiration from Magical Journey there, old Banksy has. And I was like, I was reading it, and I was like, oh well, unlucky. And then I had my dinner, had my tea, went to sleep, and then I woke up at like 4 a.m, just going, that's really bad. How like they've failed so big. Like this thing should have been huge. And anyway, I dozed off again, and then I woke up quite early the next morning. I'm like, I'm just gonna ring them, and I just rang them. No answer. I'm like, all right. So I got on the phone to Max, told him, and I can't. Max's very passive attitude, and it would be like, all right then. I was like, we're going down there, and he was like, all right. So I picked him up, drove down there, looked at the place like from the outside, and I was like, there's massive marquee, and I'm like, this just doesn't look good. And this is coming from someone that's been to not all of them, but lots of theme parks in America, Universal Studios, Disney. Anytime I'm doing themed stuff, like in my head, I'm like, what would Disney do? That's the role. That's the role I try and transfer over to the performers I'm providing. And walked in there, saw a bunch of people sat down, like they'd closed, like they weren't allowing public in there. But I strolled in there, saw a bunch of people sat down, walked over, and was like, "Oh, could you put me in touch with someone who's in charge?" And this woman went, "Oh, that's me. What do you want?" I was like, "Oh, my name's Marc Lavelle. I want to provide some performers and get this place running again." And she just went, "What?" And I said it, and like a few seconds went by, like of just silence, and she just went, "You're exactly what we need." So we went over to the Belfry from the marquee, sat down, had a coffee, um, crunched out some numbers. I've still got this grudge against Max for doing this, but like he didn't really know the performers that I was aiming to bring in, and he just threw out a price, and I'm just like, what? Why did you do that? He doesn't know what they go out for? Like he threw out a price without even finding out the hours, the days, or any of this stuff. And obviously I didn't want to start an argument with him in front of a potential client at this point. So I was like, okay, let me make some phone calls. And I went out, made some phone calls, and we managed to do it. We managed to put in, I think we had like 15 performers there every day, um, um, for like three weeks or so. But the problem was, it was already a sinking ship. Not because of the customers that were coming in, but because of what had already happened and the amount of money they'd invested. They'd lost investors and stuff that, you know, us as well, not us, but most performers don't even think about is what happens behind the scenes at an event.
Yeah.
So they lost a lot of investors and obviously lost a lot of faith, but it was still looking really crap. So I went around on a walk with them. I told them what to improve, told them to, you know, there was periods of time where the people would be just walking for 20 minutes with nothing happening, like around this track. I was like, okay, we put some storytellers in here, like, you know, we can stop them and, you know, have almost like a round robin, but in a straight line. You know, you'd have some story tellers here. Everyone holds for like 5 minutes while something's happening. You'll have an area where there'll be you know, some friendly owls or whatever, because it was obviously Christmas themed. Yeah, I mean, it worked really well. The reviews just went from here to straight up. Like all the newspapers came down on the relaunch night. We had stilt walkers going around the place. Me, Max doing magic and a crossover between like James Doherty. He was one of our regulars on there, and a few other. The problem was the price we'd put forward, because we were asking a lot for our performers who were going to be there for like 10 hours. And
I remember you ringing me up the night
it
before
was
saying, "Oh,
it was not a good fee,
it was."
especially during December. But
Which
you
is
know,
one of the things that I was amazed that you managed to pull it off.
yeah, so were we.
It just shows how well connected you are.
Yeah,
Even
I
back
think I'd probably still owe some of those favors back out.
then.
So if there's any of the magical journey magicians that need a favor, do give me a ring. I will cash in on that, or you can cash in on that rather.
But then you and Max went your separate ways. No animosity. You just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, we
went
wanted different
direction.
things. So I guess almost the next chapter in me was I get a phone call off Ben Hanlon asking if I wanted to go work on Tricked.
And that's huge. How did I mean? Did you know Ben already?
I'm just thinking of the dates here actually. No, that yeah. Oh, sorry, the Ben Hanlon thing happened. I think I got that phone call in January after I left World Magic Shop.
So you were doing Ben, and you were doing Ben. You were working
He's
with
nice
Ben
and all,
and
but not.
Max at the same time, were you?
Yeah,
So
no. So yeah, so I was working with Max. The Magical Journey was the following year after I left World Magic Shop. But yeah, so from I think it was like February time up to July, I went and lived in London, and I was working on Tricked season 2. And then oh god, and then we did BGT. Me and Max did BGT. I forgot about that.
didn't even know that.
Yeah, we asked for it to not be shown.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to get to BGT. I need to know
Yeah,
what was shown. My
I've just
God.
realised how when you said you're all over the place, I am literally all over the place.
Really are. Right. Let's focus. First of all, Ben Hanlon. So
Yeah,
tricks. First of all, that's a big deal. You were creative.
that was really big for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're a creative consultant. You've never done anything like that before. You've just come out of working at a magic shop, and now you're creative consultant on what turned into a massive primetime
yeah,
ITV show. I mean,
ITV show.
how did you come on Ben's radar? Did you know? Obviously, you were
Well,
both in Birmingham, so
it was because he was a regular at World Magic Shop. Back
perfect.
when World Magic Shop had its shop in Birmingham, he'd come in and he'd hang around, he'd buy stuff. And when I spoke to, because I remember at the lads convention, because I didn't know he was doing a TV show, he never mentioned it. And then at the lads convention, I think it was the second lads convention, he put a trailer of the TV show with the stunt with Blue, the boy band, or the band rather. And I was like, oh, he's got a TV show. Great. Cool stuff. I didn't know that. But when I spoke to him, like I said, oh, who did you have season one? And it was like, oh, we had Jazz helping us out on season one. My role originally was almost like a runner, but it was the magic runner type thing. But you do end up bouncing ideas off Nigel Mead, Ben, and Martin Rowland. They're just a phenomenal team to work with. So you end up bouncing ideas. So yeah, you end up consulting on it as well. But I did say to him, I was like, oh, I would have done season one. And he was like, oh yeah, but you had your job at World Magic Shop. So I was like, oh, all right, okay. But yeah, so it was a weird series of events.
And did you stay for season 3 as well?
Yeah, came back for season 3. Which the problem, I'd say, I don't say problem, but he'd probably say the exact same thing. The difficult challenge with a hidden camera prank magic show. If it was a prank show, there's one category. If it's a magic show, there's another category. If it's a hidden camera show, there's another category. But when you've got all three, you very quickly use up your A game material. Like, you very quickly. There's only so many ways you can break someone's stuff and restore it. There's only so many ways he can fake a death. There's only so many ways certain things can happen. So I think the third season, and then they had the Halloween one as well, which I didn't go back for. But that was just like a one shoot. But I think the third season, it was when they said, look, we're not doing a fourth season. I think they left on a high, as opposed to letting the material deteriorate. But yeah, I really, really enjoy doing the creative side of it.
And since then, you've obviously consulted on a lot of other projects, and we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
But one thing that a lot of magicians bring up, especially on Facebook groups and places like the Magic Cafe, is, TV magic sucks because you can't do any of that stuff in the real world, and it's just cheating, and it's making life harder for the magicians to actually go out in the trenches. And that I think that's total, complete, and utter rubbish. As somebody that's actually consulted, can you?
Yeah, there is a little bit of cheating that we wouldn't get away with in the real world, but my kind of like mantra for TV magic is if the spectator that you're just performing to watches it back at home and experiences the same thing, then I think that's fine. So like we did use things like and all TV magic use this, like things like time misdirection. Because it is very difficult to misdirect a camera, obviously. Time misdirection, was sometimes a factor, but that, again, like I say, is pretty much in every TV magic show. You don't always see things as they were filmed. But yeah, we didn't stooge anything. I've got to say, Andy, who was our producer, he also worked on like Balls of Steel and like this sort of show. I'm not going to say what it is, but he had a fantastic way of pre-showing people without pre-showing them. Like, they were clueless. So when they experienced the trick, yeah, we may have information about them, but it was they didn't, they were never asked for it. They didn't know or anything like that. So like what Ben had, obviously, the amazing job of presenting and performing on it. and but the trick sometimes started 20 minutes, 20 days, 4 weeks before they were actually performed on.
Wow.
What you see in like a 3-minute shot there, loads more work has gone into it. So like the team it was fantastic, and yeah, the producers and they had like the perfect way of building a massive dual reality, which I love. Like, I loved going there, knowing, even though we weren't shooting that day, that magic is happening. It's kind of a weird sensation to put across, but like the effort that goes into just a 3-minute trick was just phenomenal. But obviously for me as well, I got the bonus of delving a bit more into my creative aspect. So like, for every trick you see performed, there were probably 20 tricks shot, or well, not 20, probably about 10 different tricks shot. Not all of them obviously made the cut for the air, but also out of those effects, like between us, we'd probably come up with like 6-7 different methods.
Yeah.
So it's like we're constantly creating, constantly thinking, which you don't get to do in any other role in Magic, I don't think.
No, you don't. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's really cool. Let's quickly talk about BGT, because I didn't know about that. You and Max, first of all,
Yeah, we
what
did
did you
BGT.
do? Second of all, why did you choose not to air it? I mean,
Okay, so it was Ben that actually said this. So I started at ITV, and I said to Ben, I was like, look, me and Max have put into audition for BGT. Is that going to be an issue? And obviously Ben had done BGT before. The issue being obviously because they're both ITV. Like if I'd happened to get all the way through whilst working at ITV, that might be a conflict of interest. And Ben was like, no, that's fine. Yeah. It was, the audition was for on a weekend anyway, so it wasn't whilst I was at work at ITV. And he gave me a bit of advice that I didn't know. He's like, if you're not 100% happy with the audition, you can ask for it not to be aired, even though you're contracted. And I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. And basically, what I think it boils down to is they don't want bad press.
yeah,
Because this was at the time where it was the time where Magic was pretty much taken as a joke until sort of like the year we went to do it. It was the year Jamie Raven was the same year we did it. I think it was Jamie Raven. So yeah, we were like, okay, that's fine. So me and Max and rehearse, and you know what I'm like as a performer. I improvise a lot, I jazz a lot. So like I have a bass structure, and this is why me and Max never made it as a double stage act, because we were always trying to tread on each other's toes. No fault for either one of us, but like you and Russ, it was so natural on stage. Me and Max, it was just like we just couldn't do it properly. It just didn't work. But yeah, so what we did essentially was a card to impossible location. So we had Stephen Leithwaite, bless him for helping out. He was sat at the front of the ICC, where every single audience member had to walk past, and all the judges. He was sat there with this massive signpost, almost like a subway this way type signpost. And all it had on there was a question mark, and he was just sat there. He was sat there from like 9 a.m. and our audition was at 10 p.m. He was sat there all day because the plan was basically there was a time-lapse camera on him watching everyone walk past, the judges and all that sort of stuff. Because I've got to point out as well, and this isn't to be big-headed or anything, but before me and Max auditioned, like we brought some new things to the table. Like we brought offstage production in the aspect of inserting this shot sort of thing. We also were the first people, as far as I know, to ask for a live feed camera to be projected onto the screen behind us. So basically, what it was, card to impossible location. We're on stage. Simon gets a card. Simon signs a card, gets lost in the deck, and then and thinking back on it, the plot is actually quite ridiculous. And we then destroy the deck in a blender. Like we could pour a load of stuff in it, destroy it, and the aim was to get one card remaining, which didn't work. And then we go, oh, wait a minute. So then we get Ant and Dec on stage with a cameraman, wireless feed up to there, and then we send Ant and Dec out through the auditorium all the way to the front, open up the big signpost, and inside there is an envelope, and inside there is Simon's signed card. That was a trick.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I mean, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. I'm sure someone's probably going to use it now. No, the reason why we asked for it to not be aired, we got 2 yeses, 2 nos. We got a yes from Simon and a yes from Alicia. No from Amanda, no from David. And yeah, we felt that we could have improved the effect a lot.
Got you. Did you know that Max Francis and Russell used to do a double act?
I did. I think I did.
They entered Fool Us before.
Oh, really?
Max and Russ entered Penn and Teller Fool Us.
I did not know that. No.
When the first season, when they were casting for the first season, they went there and did Penn and Teller Fool Us. There you go. Useless information. Just thought I'd share. Right.
Remember David J?
Huh?
Remember David J?
Oh, how could I forget David J?
He went on Fool Us.
Sleeve Star.
Yeah, he actually fooled them, but it never got aired because he was argumentative. And he came across as cocky, so they never aired it.
Yeah, that was him to a T, wasn't
it? He did. Apparently, I didn't see this firsthand, but apparently he did Sleeve Star with Penn Jillette's jacket. No gimmick.
Wow. Although he was amazing at that sort of stuff.
Yeah, ridiculous. Time in prison will do that to you, I guess.
Yeah. Right. 99% of people aren't going to have a clue what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know. That's just gone over.
Go on YouTube and type in Sleeve Star David J. I think it's still available in some places, but good product actually. But anyway, so you've done Ben Hanlon. Ben Hanlon you've done 2 seasons of Tricked. You've done you've worked with Max Francis for a while, but you've both moved on to future endeavors. You then make it big as, I don't even want to say a magician, because even though you're supplying magic, I mean, you become the go-to guy for any type of speciality.
A random speciality.
Like, how many times have I called you and said, hey, Mark, I've got a client.
Can you supply 20 jugglers on the same day across the country?
Yeah, can you find organising 20 jugglers on the same day over 3 days?
I'm sure I've got a receding hairline from that gig.
Yeah, but you're my go-to guy. If I need something random, I know I'm going to come to Mark. But it's not just me. I know I know a lot of people in this industry, and everybody always says you need something bonkers, you go to Marc Lavelle.
Go to Mark.
How did you go from a very accomplished magician, just having worked with tricks, still kind of looking for your big break, and then you become you've created this whole company where you can pretty much find anything and source anything. And now supplying entertainment, not just in the UK, all over the world.
The thing is, and I should say, is that I am very picky with who I put on gigs, which is why the jugglers one was quite difficult for me, because obviously I've got a network of people. So when I put the call out for jugglers, I got probably 150 replies on each thread. But the thing is, I only put people forward that I have either got first-hand experience with, or someone I really, really, really trust has first-hand experience with. So I am very picky. Like, if someone needs like fire performers, I don't just put random fire performers on there. I put the best fire performers that person can afford. That I can get, and sometimes even the best fire performer that person can't afford. Like, I will pull in favors where I need to, if I think there's a future client. And I've just built up a group of really good performers, that I can call on, and I know they're going to do a fantastic job. I can send them to do a gig like without me there, and they're going to represent me and themselves, in a really professional manner. I think, and I enjoy doing that as well. Like, I know some agencies, and I am 100% in agreement that commission makes the world go around. But I know some agencies that do take the piss. They'll take a £600 fire gig and put a £100 fire performer on there. I'm like, yeah, I'd rather give them a full-on fire show for the £600. So I don't even, a lot of the time, I don't even take commission unless I'm actually doing a shit ton of work, pardon my language, to earn that commission. So yeah, that's how it works. But yeah, I've met some amazing people on the trips.
So, what advice would you give somebody who's wanting to be a professional magician? They're wanting to make it big, because you've not just done well as a magician, but as I say, you've got this whole company. You know, you're very organized. You supply people all over the world. What advice would you give somebody? Again, let's just assume that this is post-COVID, and
Post,
you know, at
yeah,
the moment,
ignore 2020.
yeah, the advice for a magician right now is hold fire for a bit. But at
Yeah,
some at some point, when everything goes back to normal, what advice would you give anybody who wants to become a full-time professional magician and make a good living out of it?
I'd I'd probably say the path that I went. There are things that I look back on that could have been improved, but there's also no regrets at all. Like from my journey, if I hadn't worked at World Magic Shop, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met Hanlon. I wouldn't have met, like, some fantastic performers and fantastic magicians. If I hadn't taken like the cheap nightclub gigs, because that's one thing we haven't really touched on. But like, I used to go out into Birmingham a lot and network with nightclubs. If I hadn't taken on them, I probably wouldn't have met the multi-skill performers that then led on to more specialist act that led on to some of the elite acts. So I'd probably say get your trench time in, like do the low paid restaurant gigs, do the low paid residencies. If you're in a position where you can do that and still have a normal job, just because we don't know what the future is going to be like at the moment, have that security in there. So for me, I was doing that. I was working at World Magic Shop with a steady income, but then I was building my nightlife and nightclub gigs as well. But yeah, I'd say do your trench time. One thing and it does annoy me slightly when I see it, like on some of the forums, is like, I'd stay away from weddings until you've got the trench time. And weddings are more money, but like, be big enough to say, I'm not experienced enough to do a wedding. Like, if I look back and change what I've done like in the past, I wouldn't have taken those weddings on at the beginning, because especially with self-working things, because I don't think I think they would have been better off hiring a professional magician,
Yeah.
like someone who knows, you know, how to hold a crowd, I mean, audience management's never been an issue for me, because I've had roles before Magic where I've been managing large crowds. But have someone that knows how a wedding is structured, even if it's, contacting a local professional wedding magician and asking if you can shadow him for a gig, from the sidelines, watch how he works a room or something like that. I probably should have cut that part out at the beginning, but it was
Yeah.
only because of mates asking me to do weddings, and people that I was very familiar with asking me to do weddings, that happened. It wasn't until after I'd done a whole load of trench work that I'd actually started putting myself out looking for weddings to gig at,
That's
if
really
that
good.
makes sense.
No, it really is. And very quickly circling up back on what you said, I did forget to mention it, but there was a period of time where you, like, with the dawn of all the nightclubs in Birmingham,
Birmingham.
sorry, like
Yeah, yeah.
every single nightclub, you were doing something for them from an entertainment point of view, like every single night. And that's a great way to get extra income, even though they're low paying. Normally nightclubs happen after the working day's done. You can get your gigs in, you can get your evening gigs in, and you've still got this stuff that you were doing in nightclubs. It's a great source of income.
It
Uh,
was, especially the way I worked it. So what I did, I was, in fact, actually, my missus Sophia, I can't remember if you met her, but we met whilst I was out having a drink with a few magicians, sat outside the bar, and she used to work at Reflex, which was, for those of you not knowing, is an 80s themed club, or was an 80s themed club. And she walked past, and kind of what you said about the illusionist party, I would just perform to anyone. So I was performing some magic, and I was like, "Oh, hey, do you girls want to see something weird?" That used to be my opener. Do you girls want to see something weird? and she actually was just like, "No, go away." But her mate was like, "Yeah, go on." So I showed them some magic, and then they just went, and then walked off. And I was like, oh, that was weird. Anyway, I sat down, carried on drinking, doing some more magic, and then she comes back and went, my boss wants to come and see you. No, sorry, can you come and see my boss? My boss wants to see you. And I was like, all right. So I went with her. She took me into Reflex, and I performed to her there, and her boss. And then I ended up getting a residency at Reflex from that. It was weird, but that was in the Arcadian Centre where there was a lot of other nightclubs and stuff. So over the course of working there, I ended up meeting like all the promo staff for the other venues, and they got to know me. So from there, at Reflex, I ended up also doing gigs at So Bar, which was just around the corner. I even had, and the guy's actually a really good friend of mine now, called Metin. His dad used to run Legs 11. So I ended up having a residency in Legs 11.
It's ridiculous.
If you want to say what Legs 11 is, you're more than welcome to.
It's a place where you can give
where gentlemen go.
Where gentlemen go. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. So I ended up doing that. But
hang on, whoa, stop.
Yeah.
I have to ask you a question about this.
Go for it.
How did that residency even work? Because frankly, the clientele that went in there, I'm pretty sure they don't give a crap about card tricks.
That was my opener. It was like, welcome to Legs 11, gentlemen. It wasn't always gentlemen, but welcome to Legs 11. The girls are the secondary entertainment. You're actually here to see me. Then I'd start with the card trick. That was my opener there. But no, it wasn't like a weekly residency there. I was like kind of in there once a month, and then they did this. I can't even remember the name of the drink now, which was annoying. But they used to do this thing once a year, an annual event where it was open all day, but the place was a restaurant. But they'd have the girls going around serving food and stuff. But no, the girls there were lovely as well, and always eager to watch magic. And I was like, you're supposed to be doing your other stuff there, ladies. But yeah, it's amazing how you can load a Mercury folded card onto someone's strap.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So yeah, I mean, there's more advice. You know, don't be afraid to turn away any gig. You know, I mean, it's all flight.
It's all mileage. It's a lot. It's all stuff that that people overlook, and they don't get that experience. And I think there's something you need to notice as a magician is you've got to have a you know, your character's your own character, but whatever your character is, you've got to be confident in it. Your persona's got to basically ooze confidence and presence. And I'm not on about in a sleazy way, but you've got to be able to just own the room. But if you go up there, if you haven't got a deck of cards around here, if you go up to someone and your hands are shaking, you've obviously not done enough trench time. And it sounds weird. I can't remember who pointed this out to me. It wasn't something I noticed, but initially, but it was something I registered afterwards. But you can usually tell by someone's card spread about there you go. You can usually tell about someone's card spread about how long they've done. If they're like this, pick a card, then it kind of reflects that they're still closed in. They're not owning that. They haven't got that presence yet. You know, you look at like the lively performers like Tom Wright. You know, he's just got this thing about him, and he's such a lovely guy, and he's not intimidating, but he's just there, and he's got people's attention, and that only comes from practice. There's no other way of doing it, and the best way to practice is do the crappy gigs, because then you're still getting your muscle memories in.
Exactly. Even a residency in Legs 11. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I don't think many people can.
That's my
tick that box off, to be honest.
Story ever. I once sent Nemid Phoenix to do a annual dinner for a nudist organization.
I had an inquiry for one of them.
Yeah, a few years ago, now 2 or 3 years ago, I sent him to an awards dinner. 60 people and a cabaret and close up. Completely. It was amazing.
Did he enjoy it?
Yeah, I think so.
You know the old phrase. You know the old phrase, like when you're on stage and you're nervous, you just picture everyone's naked. Yeah. What did he do?
Well, he said unfortunately, everybody that was there was over the age of 70. I don't think it was too much of an issue, to be honest.
Some people are into that.
Now we've talked about your career. I want to talk about one more thing with you,
Go for it.
which is working with Murphys, because we talked
Yeah,
about how you first met
I,
Murphys when you were working. Oh yeah,
I should point out, very similar to you and World Magic Shop, I don't actually work for Murphy's. I'm just quite friendly with them. I am actually freelance.
people
If
think
you've
that you
got any
do
work
because they
for me,
see you
tell me.
popping up on all the different trailers and stuff and all of the different
Yeah.
projects. But yeah, so here's a question for you: how did you end up being a freelance? Would you call yourself a presenter?
I don't
Uh,
even know.
okay.
I don't even know what to call it, to be honest.
How did
But
that? Because
it started
I've
with
got to say, by the way, the stuff that you've done with them is great. Like
I
you did
think it
most of the Daryl project, and I've reviewed a few of those on the
that
channel.
was
It's so
nerve-wracking. That
well,
was.
yeah, it's so well done, so well done.
It was nerve-wracking having to relearn stuff, like, no disrespect to Daryl, that I hadn't touched for 10 years.
Yeah,
I was like, phew, I remember it vaguely.
and I love how you paid respect to the original Daryl material, but you
Yeah.
also modernized it and brought it bang up to date as well.
Yeah, that was so part of the aim for that, and Greg Wilson did a lot of them as well. Part of the aim for that, I think there's actually some that haven't come out yet, so stay tuned. Part of it was try and bring something yourself to the table for it, as opposed to just doing a complete clone of Daryl. So yeah, I added my own handling techniques and tips that I picked up from relearning them, basically. So what I did, I had to relearn them or learn them. There were a few that I hadn't actually seen before, or performed before rather. And I went out and did probably like 3 or 4 gigs where I just dropped one of them in every now and then,
Mhm.
just to get that mileage in again. Yeah, then I was out in Las Vegas for Magic Live, and then wait, was I in Vegas? Yeah, I think it was Vegas. And then they flew me to Sacramento, and we did we did like 4 days of filming, like pretty much non-stop. It was tiring, but there was like I think we did 15 or 12 or 15, and yeah, smashed all those out. Got confused so many times, like trying to remember the names of the effects that I'd performed. I was like, no, yeah, cut. We got to take it again. I can't remember what this one was called. Because I think one thing that happened when I stopped working at World Magic Shop is my retention for product names just vanished. Like, it was ridiculous. I used to have in my head a catalogue of pretty much every effect and what every effect was linked to and all this sort of stuff, and it's just not there anymore. I need my own, like, Dave Jones just on call these days to to go. Can you tell me 10 things related to this one trick? So yeah, I had to go out and do that, and then I've done a few other hosting things, like what was it called? Stickman Bob, Kieran Johnson's Stickman Bob.
You did all the at the tables in the UK as well, or a lot of them.
Oh, I forgot about them. That was a tiring 10 days for me.
Man, I was so how you managed it, I don't know, because I only did like one session and I was absolutely shattered. Like I seem to remember falling asleep during John Carey's set.
You did.
Not that he's
You
not a
did.
dynamic performer. He's amazing. Like he's a
You
great guy.
did. Yeah, I forgot.
But like I'm pretty sure if you listen carefully to that live load, you can hear me snoring in the background. Like
I need to go and rewatch them.
I was beat. I was so wrecked after just
They were long days. They were really long days, and really, basically, for anyone not aware, the At the Table lecture is a Murphy's series where we managed to do a UK one. So I was hosting, and we had I think it was 12, no, maybe 15 UK performers, including Craig here, and we were shooting 3 a day, pretty much back to back. And it was really tiring. Like, I feel sorry for the third performer because I know I probably was struggling to, like, pay attention. No matter, you could have had Darren Brown stood there talking to me, and I still would have had the same attention difficulties going on in my head. But yeah, no, that was a great series for Murphy. So yeah, I actually forgot about those.
yeah, and you've done so much exactly. But as well, so Well, actually, before I ask that question, as well as the presenting, you've also created a couple.
Yeah,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You've got the Changeling, which
I've got
is
I've got
still,
Changeling, which
still,
was
in my opinion, the best build change that there is.
thank you.
Bar
That
none.
was co-created by Martin Rowland, and that stems from Tricked actually. Um,
Incredible,
yeah, so there was
incredible.
Changeling. Then I managed to come up with a way of making it a removable gimmick, and also being able to do, I don't know, like 7 different changes. So I came up with Changeling Odo,
Yeah.
which was the sequel. I always, some people have realised this. I do try and put like a slight geek reference in the titles. So Changeling is a species in Star Trek that can change their appearance. Odo, which is obviously the sequel to that, Odo is like the main changeling in Star Trek. Some people have clocked it, some people haven't. They just think it's a weird acronym for something. I did Skynet Project.
Sky amazing, which is the just such a natural way to steal for an index that doesn't
Yeah, I love it.
pocket
Oh,
space.
in fact, change your mind a bunch of times. Name a card.
Me,
Yeah.
7 of Hearts.
So one thing I've been playing around with, this box has been here from the beginning.
Yeah,
This is kind of like my Zoom performance of it. Yeah, it's actually stuck onto the back here, and you can open the lid. There's one cut. Try and get the autofocus on it. Zoom. Can pick it up. There we go.
got it. Yeah,
Sorry. So there's one card in there, and it
yeah.
is actually in there, and it is your 7 of Hearts.
Look at
Um,
that. That's brilliant.
it's
What an incredible trick for Zoom.
so easy for Zoom, and then it's
You
reset
know what? I hadn't thought of using Skynet like that. Oh, there you go.
gravity.
I hadn't thought about using Skynet like that, but now I can see how you've got that. Yeah, you're not doing it in the traditional
Yeah,
way.
it's super easy. It's just
That,
here in
oh my
front of my
gosh,
laptop.
that's so clever. I'm going to get my Skynet. It's firmly stuck in my trousers. In my trousers at the moment. I'm
Oh,
going to go and get it. And
yeah, and that's just permanently in there. I was trying to think, like, so I thought of having it on elastic or something, so you can get a
yeah,
retention of vision. And then I was like, just doing some tests. Can't remember where the car's just gone there. I was just doing some tests, and you don't mind me revealing this on here, do you?
only magicians. What like when I interviewed Etienne Pradier, he just basically exposed every single trick he's ever mastered.
And everyone else's. So yeah, I've got my load in finger palm. Grab the box, open the lid up, and that hides the load behind it.
Got yeah.
Oh, now the camera's behaving. So you show in there, and you just drop it out.
That's so good.
I'm usually zoomed a little bit more out when I'm performing on camera, but it
That's so
doesn't.
good.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll have an elastic device at the back so I can pull it out and let one release. And then I was like, oh no, I'll just drop it from behind the box.
It looks so good. I'm telling you that. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Skynet is, in my opinion, the best sort of crib style thing that there is because it takes up
Thanks,
no
man.
pocket space and it's so organic.
Yeah.
But I'd never thought of using it in a Zoom show. But I can see exactly. I remember seeing on the download you talking about doing it that way, but I instantly dismissed it because it's like,
Yeah.
when am I ever going to do
I,
that?
I
That's
still think, and shamefully, I'm yet to perform it. I still think Titanus's presentation is the best, where he has a sketch pad, and you basically got your Skynet in setup of drawing duplications on blank playing cards. So he gets someone to draw a commonly named object or just something random, and then he's basically in the sketch pad. He suggested just having an index of your index. So like 4 of Hearts would be house, or 6 of Clubs will be car or whatever. But you can have a 52 out drawing duplication. I was like, that's a genius idea. So like basically, you name it, you write it down as you get your peak. Show the page, and then load the drawing into a card to wallet or something. I'm
Right.
still yet to perform it, but it's on my list of as soon as I can get back on stage.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So my question is, are you planning on releasing anything else at any time in the future? I mean, because you're kind of, I know that the problem is, you're a busy guy. I mean, I know how busy it is running a company that supplies entertainment to multiple
I
events.
know, yeah.
So you're-
So I've got my two issues is I like to work stuff before I release it. Like I will try it out and iron out as many kinks as I can until I'm happy that I can't progress. And this is a benefit from working at World Magic Shop, and you'll experience. I'm sure you've experienced the same from reviewing as well. Is that you open a product, you watch it, and you're like, why didn't he think of this? Why didn't he think of this? And 9 times out of 10 is because he's just had an idea and went, yeah, that'll do, and then typed it
well,
up or
I
filmed it and put it out.
I was speaking to Scott Alexander the other day on an interview, and he said that he can guarantee me that there's probably a product out there that the guy woke up in the morning and had an idea for it, grabbed an iPhone and filmed it in the afternoon, and had
Yeah,
it up for sale as a download in the evening.
yeah.
So
It's almost a shame that people aren't putting that same effort in. And I have a group of people that when I'm ready, I'll like, hey, can you check this out? Or what do you think of this? I'll send prelim trailers out, and then the full performances, and then I'll put it out when I'm ready to. My problem was last February. I had no, sorry, it was before February. So January, I had an idea for an effect. I'm like, oh, that could be good. So I made up a prototype, ran it on like 4 or 5 gigs, maybe a few more, and then pandemic hit. The problem was the trick required you to touch someone. So it was like, damn, worst timing ever. So yeah, that's been shelved for a while. I've got a few other things as well. I've got 2 accessories, so not tricks, but like the magician's accessories that I've got that I want to eventually put out. And then I think there's maybe like 1 or 2 other. I'm probably similar to you. You've got a notebook full of your ideas, and then
yeah,
it's just going through that notebook and trying to build on them.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, have you got any advice for anybody that creates magic? Because you've worked with Murphy's, you've seen it from that side of things. You've worked with World Magic Shop, and so you've seen it from that side of things. And obviously, you're a creator yourself. And I always say this: if we have a scale of quality versus quantity, at this end we have Richard Sanders, and at this end we have Jay Sankey, and we call it the Canadian quality score of product. You are squarely in the Richard Sanders section, nowhere near the Sankey section. So,
Hey, Sankey has got some good ones, and I can see
I'm
your.
not, I know I rib him on this channel an awful lot.
I can see your
Got them there
Sankey
as
books
well.
behind.
Yeah, I rib him on this channel, but I mean, by that I mean that he brings.
We stand on the shoulder of Sankey. Is that what
he's basically he's a modern day Marlowe. He's created everything at this point. Who do you credit? You credit Sankey. He's done it probably at some point. Especially if it involves a nerd name change. But I digress.
Advice for creative. Well, first of all, I would say proof of concept. So film yourself a private video. Well, not film yourself a private video. Film yourself a video. Upload it to YouTube as a private, unlisted video. That way, you've got your timestamp of when you had this idea. Do that as soon as you possibly can. Then, when you're talking to other magicians about it, obviously you send them that link. Okay,
yeah.
so you and send it through email. Don't use Facebook or messengers or that stuff that can be deleted. Send it through email. So you've got, hey, I sent this person this idea on this date. Okay, that is just purely to cover your back. People. I've seen so many people fall out over ideas that it's unreal. And a shame as well, because it's a lot of the time it's not even a what's the word, intentional thing, but some people do misremember who's told them what, or that sort of thing. So I'd do that first before you even start doing research or anything. I'd get that done first, so you've got your proof of concept. Then research. My 3 things when I first look at developing something: has it already been done? Is my one better? Is it worth it? Those are my three things. If it has already been,
when we were both at World Magic Shop, where were you with this advice when I released Red?
see, okay, with Red, right, and I've got a
Remember,
defense.
I was showing this to everybody.
I've got a defense for you here because and anyone watching that does remember the whole Red fiasco. Like, and this is what I'm on about, misremembering things as well. I remember when you first showed me Red, or that trick, it was completely different. It took you maybe like three months of coming in each time, and you changed something slightly, or you'd change something slightly different, or you'd change 2-3 things. And I remember seeing the evolution of that trick, and it ended up being obviously someone else's trick, but it ended up being completely different to where you started. So like I say, maliciously, that's the word. It wasn't done maliciously.
Oh.
It's just a misremember thing, and everyone ends up sometimes on a journey that when they're developing something that they get stuck on, and sometimes that journey is the wrong direction. Sometimes it could just take, and this was a great thing from consulting on Tricked. I might be stuck on an issue, and then Nigel Mead will go, "Have you tried this?" And I hadn't. I'd be like, "Oh my god, yeah, that puts me on such a better path." And likewise, someone else might be stuck on something. I'll be like, "Have you tried this?" That's why it's always good to have almost like a bit of a brain hub. So yeah, I'd say do your research. If it has been done before, if the answer's no, then you go to, is it worth it? Is it actually worth having this as a trick? Like, does it give anything to the community as a trick? If the answer is yes, it has been done before, i.e. the premise has, is yours better? Is it more reliable? Is it more workable? Is it more efficient? That breaks down into loads of little subcategories. But those are the three things I go for: is, has it been done before? Is it worth it? Is mine better?
That is brilliant advice.
If you tackle those three questions, then yeah, I think you can put out a good piece of magic.
And then don't be afraid to bin it and start again. Like, I was speaking to Lloyd Barnes recently,
hundreds of times,
for an interview on the channel, and he said, I can't tell you the amount of times somebody submitted a trick to him while he was an illusionist, and he said, well, this has been done before, it's been done by this person, and the person who, and they've still gone and released it and got really angry with Lloyd and said, you know what you're talking about, and released it anyway, and then got into hot water. It's like, if you're going to go and get advice from people that know, take their advice on board and don't be afraid to start.
I had a very similar thing happen to me on Facebook recently. Someone posted up an effect, and he was offering to give it out for free, and I'm like, that looks really familiar. And it so I watched his performances, looked at the not watched his performances, sorry, he put screenshots up. So I looked through his screenshots and I was like, yeah, no, that's the exact same method that I teach on my At the Table lecture. Like the exact same.
Blank card trick.
No, not the bank card trick. It's a social media effect where you can have a playing card, any name playing card, be on your Facebook wall. Wow. Like, yeah, and it's great. There's a bit of prep, but yeah, I was like, it's the exact same. And he was like, oh, I've got 4 methods for it. I was like, yeah. So I went and rewatched my At the Table, and I talk about different methods that I'd gone through to end up at this one, and why this method was what I considered the more workable, the better one. I was like, yeah, but it's still my thing that I published. And he just didn't get it. And he still kept offering it out for free. I'm like, no, I don't care if you're doing the other 3 that I dismissed, because I still spoke about them. Like, the reason why I ended up at this one is because it's workable, is because it's more fooling, in my opinion. You can't. Not only can you not just give someone else's trick away, you can't give someone else's research away. It's it just didn't get it, which is a shame, because I think it's off-putting to a lot of creators. Like, you're going to create something, put a lot of effort, put a lot of money into something, and then someone that's got no etiquette, like zero etiquette at all, doesn't know the industry, will then just try and give it away. It's like, and then you end up in an argument on Facebook with some kid in America or whatever. But yeah.
Talking about the At the Table lecture that you did, by the way, I'm going to tell everybody this now. What they need to do when they're finished watching this interview is they need to hang up this to go off YouTube, and they need to go and buy your at the table lecture, because the
Oh, I
blank
appreciate
card routine that you put on there is the best routine. Like I
it.
saw you work it
It's
when you.
still my favorite. I've been working that since before I met you.
I know. I saw you work it for the first time. But I think the first time I saw it was when we went and did that gig miles away. And I saw it. I was like, "Shit, this is the best trick I've ever seen. This is
Well,
absolutely."
that's the thing. Like I couldn't get into my car. I had no kit. I was like, all right, I need to buy stuff. I've got about a tenner on me, so I bought a blank deck, a regular deck, and a Sharpie and some
Amazing.
sponge balls. And I think I did the gig like with that. And I think you lent me your Coinvex.
It's amazing. It genuinely is so good. I'm doing a video on this channel soon about the best blank card routines of all time, and
Oh, amazing.
yours is number one, because it really is. I've seen lots of people take Greg's routine and improve it. This is
Yeah.
the first way. This is the first one I've ever seen that has improved it and taken it a million times better, in my opinion. It's brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
Don't know about, and what's nice about it is it's just buried in a project. It's not. It could be a standalone trick.
It is actually. Murphy's did release it as a standalone as well, called Kane.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a download. It's a download.
Okay, so you can either get it off the at the table, or you can get it as Kane.
As Kane, yeah. I go into a little bit more detail on there because I did get a lot of messages about it, asking people asking for more ideas and such on there. So yeah, I shot that actually when I did the Daryl stuff. So yeah, we did an extra extended version of that trick as a standalone thing called Kane.
So good.
I appreciate
it. So before we wrap this whole thing up, one last question for you.
Go for it.
What's
next?
What's next? Because I know, right, you've done a lot. You know, you've achieved more than most magicians would ever achieve. As I said at the beginning, even through lockdown, you know, we have to do this interview now because in a couple of days' time, he's jetting off to the Maldives again for a little while to do more magic. Like you're a
just as a Jedi.
Just as a Jedi. Why am I not surprised? We haven't even.
They didn't ask for that.
We haven't even talked about your cosplaying magic, you know, Deadpool and all. Oh my god! Because I know you've got very, you know,
I don't know my Deadpool is.
As passionate you are about magic, I know you're as passionate about cosplay and making sure that if you're booked as a performer at an event dressed as a particular character, your costume has to be amazing.
My rule for that, and I think it actually stemmed. I can't even. Again, you might be able to credit on this, but I can't remember who said it. Was when you're a magician, you should always be the best dressed person in the room. I can't remember who said that, but like I do follow that mantra. Yeah. But it's the same with themed events. Anytime I'm doing a themed event, I've got very similar to like Lee Thompson. You know, I go all out and I get as accurate theming as I can. I've seen magicians do gigs, and I've seen the pictures, and they're wearing like a Ruby's fancy dress, and you can see it tied up at the back and stuff, and it's like, ugh. I've literally got actually behind this laptop like a wardrobe, hanging wardrobe, probably about meter and a half, and like in zip bags, like just loads of different costumes from popular themes. But yeah, do it like Disney would. What would Disney do?
That's a great thing to think.
Wouldn't wear fancy dress.
It definitely wouldn't. They 100% wouldn't. So what's next then? What's next? What's on your magical bucket list? I know you're a very ambitious guy. You're still young. You've achieved a lot, but you've got a lot of years left. What are you wanting to achieve? What's on your magical bucket list?
I'd like to do a few more countries. I haven't really. I mean, I probably could lecture, but I've never really gone and put myself out as a lecturer through just not having the situation arise just yet. I'd like to do a few more countries. I'd like to visit the Magic Castle. I've never been to the castle, and maybe do a little bit of just a tour, but not necessarily just for magic. Like I'd like to go and actually go and witness a little bit more in the world. Because I have been to a lot of countries, but a lot of them are reoccurring countries. So like I have never been to like Australia, New Zealand. As far I figured this out recently when someone said, "Oh, where's the North and South Hemisphere line?" as in the equator. And I looked. I've never been to the Southern Hemisphere of the world.
Wow.
Yeah, something I didn't realize until I was like, oh wait a minute, I've never done that. So
Maybe
yeah,
you spent a little bit less time going to America. Like you go there like 40.
I
You're in America more than you are in the UK sometimes. What's
yeah, I do
Facebook
like
this
America.
week? I was back in the States.
Yeah, it was back at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal. So yeah, no, I'd like to go to like Australia, New Zealand. You know, if there's work out there for me, bonus. You know, it's always good to go somewhere and earn whilst you're there. I think that's the problem with not having a stable income is that if you're not working, you're not earning. So
Which
yeah,
is why being a professional isn't for everybody.
yeah, it's true. It's true. Like hindsight. I really wish I had a regular job during 2020. There were so many times that I was like, you know, even if I'd worked at a bar, I'd have like a furlough. You know, our government grants don't match anywhere near what everyone else has earned.
It's true. And, you know, I think sometimes people look down on people that aren't professionals and go, well, you're not a real magician because you're not
Yeah,
professional. But some of the best magicians in the world, man, are not
part
professional.
timers. Yeah,
Part-timer. Look at John Bannon. Look at John Gustafaro. Look at Ryan Schlutz. The list goes on and on and on.
yeah,
But they're amazing. They're amazing. So I don't think it's a bad thing not being a professional magician. I think that sometimes, and I speak from somebody who's been a professional magician for a very, very long time, you have to be in a certain amount of insane to be a professional magician. I think you really
yeah.
do.
I don't know if do you remember John Meredith?
I
He
do.
just come into you
Yes.
probably
I
remember the
call him by
name.
his name that we used to call him back in the day, which was
Yeah, yeah.
the
I remember he said to me, "Do you really call me that?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." And he went, "Makes sense." Um, great guy, but he was, and I haven't seen him for years, but he was one of the most skilled close-up magicians I'd ever met,
oh,
like
sure.
ever.
Yeah.
But he never, he or very rarely gigged.
He
Like
did some stuff for
he
SU.
made,
He
yeah,
did some stuff for
he,
slightly.
he did a few for you. He did a few restaurants, but he used to have to turn down gigs because he was always working in a restaurant or a bar, like as in hospitality. But like he could have made it big, like
Yeah.
easily. You know, he
What's
had a great persona, great character, super skilled. The guy had probably one of the best passes I've ever seen
for
or
sure?
not seen. But yeah, I need to touch base with him actually. I'll give him a ring. But yeah, like he's probably been much better off not being a professional magician over the last few years. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it isn't for everyone. It
It's
is there is an element also of fear of diving into the unknown of when you go for that. I think I've been very gratefully lucky to have a lot of things align quite well over the years. You know, there's always been something on the horizon and then the next thing or yeah.
but I'm going to disagree with you there because you make your own luck.
Well, yeah,
The reason that stuff was on the horizon is because what you did
because I've
leading
been
up to
somewhere.
that. If you weren't
Yeah,
putting yourself out there and cold calling and getting to know every single magician that you know, for example, Ben Hanlon wouldn't have called you when you left World Magic Shop if you hadn't have been putting yourself out.
that's true.
There is a certain amount of luck, but there's also an element of hard work, and you are one of the hardest working promoters that I
No,
know.
thank
You're always out there hustling in a good way,
you.
um, which is great. It's a
Making it happen.
testament that hard work pays off. It really does.
It does. It does. And I enjoy it. I think if the moment I stop enjoying what I do is the moment I'll move on to something else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You got to, especially as a professional magician. Again, you got to be passionate because there's going to be times where you have to have that passion because nothing. 2020 is the perfect example. How many magicians do you know that have decided to just walk away from magic and sell all this stuff and turn their
yeah.
back and not come back? I've seen so many amazing magicians that have decided to walk away, and it's a shame. It really is.
But
But
yeah,
you're still standing. I'm still standing, and there's a whole bunch of other people that are still standing as well.
yeah, the industry's still here. We're just got to build it back up again.
And if it all fails, I'm fine because I'm thinking about retraining in cyber. I think that's
Okay,
yeah,
future proof.
it is. It is. Cyber's the way to go. Uh, so, Mark, it has been incredible, absolutely incredible having you on the channel. It really has.
Thank
Uh,
you very much for having me.
before I go, I want to ask you one last thing, and I don't normally ask this to my guests, but I'm going to ask it
Go
to you. Because you've had so much experience performing all over the world, I know that you've probably been in a million situations that have been quite amusing, hilarious.
You want a random story?
Can you give us one random story to finish this whole interview off?
Yeah, this is, it kind of sounds like a trumpet blow, but it really isn't. So I was in Mumbai, as you are. I was performing for a family called the Abani family, for the two kids. It was the two twin kids. It was their 21st birthday. He was, or the father. He was the fourth at the time, the fourth richest man in the world. And the place I was performing at was called Antilia, and you can Google Antilia and see what it looks like. It was basically, or is basically, this really ridiculous high-rise building in Mumbai. And at the time, it was the most expensive private property in the world. So that's the setup for the story here. So I was out there performing from a really random series of events. I ended up being flown out to Mumbai. It was over the space of a week that this booking came through. I had no time to get jabs. Like, I had no time to, like, I rang the doctor and I went, I'm going to Mumbai. What jabs do I need? He went, you need this, 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 and this. I'm like, cool. Can I book in? He was like, yeah, can you do Monday? I was like, not really. Have you got any availability like today or tomorrow? He was like, when do you fly? I was like, Saturday. It was like, there's no point because it takes 10 days for the immunizations the jabs to circulate. I was like, okay. So then I had like a day of going, do I go? Do I not go? Do I go? Do I not go? I'm going to go. Forget it. So I went out there. I was literally washing with hand sanitizer before hand sanitizer was a thing, and baby wipes. That's what I was. That's what I was washing with, because I didn't want to get deli belly and all that sort of stuff. And I was just only eating food from the minibar in the room I was put in. And the minibar, I'm saying minibar, it was like 2 meters long with like all sorts of stuff on there, but like crisps. I was basically eating crisps, chocolate, and biscuits. I didn't want to eat anything that had been washed in the water. So yeah, that's the setup. Anyway, so I'm there doing the gig. I'm performing at this long table for like 30 people, on a helipad on top of this building, baking hot heat. And most people that have known me over the years, they'll know that I'm usually wearing black shirt, a suit, red tie. That's kind of like the look I usually go for. Ties in a weird knot. I was told I wasn't allowed to wear a black shirt, so I'm there in a white shirt, and I tried wearing a black suit over it, and I was like, no, I just look like a waiter. I can't do that. So I had a grey suit on it, and I'm like, no, I just look like a host. It doesn't feel right. So I'm there. I'm performing in this white shirt, which is probably the only time I've ever been seen in a white shirt performing. I do the gig. It's all great. It's all fine. And then I go downstairs, and I was sharing a cab with the DJ, who finished an hour after me. So I was like, I'll just wait around for him. We had a green room, and when I say green room, I'm on about, let me think. What's a common size thing, like a TGI restaurant, TGI Fridays, right? Pretty much in every country, TGI Fridays restaurant. If you think about how big a TGI Fridays restaurant is, and then times that by 3, that's the size of the green room I was given. And the green room essentially wasn't a green room. It was, I'm not even going to say it was a living room. Like, there was sofas in there, there was like TVs. It was ridiculous. Anyway, chandeliers, like 5 chandeliers down this long thing. It was ridiculous, completely crazy. So I'm sat there drinking my sealed bottle of water. That's the thing. If you ever go anywhere and you've never had jabs, always make sure that the bottle's sealed, because some places they'll refill it from whatever. So I'm drinking my water. I'm there checking my emails, and it's quite dark in the room. Like, the chandeliers are like dimmed, and I'm sat there. There's no one else in there. I was probably there for about an hour. I could still hear the music being played, so I knew the DJ hadn't finished. He was supposed to be finished. I was like, yeah. Then I was like, I'm just going to nip and go to the toilet. So I stood up, went to go pee, and I heard a noise behind me. And bear in mind, I'd been in this room for an hour. Like, no one had entered this room with me. And I turn around, and there's just a guy fluffing the pillows from where I just stood up from. And I was like, and I looked, like he must have just been stood in the corner of this room, like for an hour. There's no other way he got in there. And I was like, oh, that was weird. Anyway, I went to this, went and peed, came back, and I looked and I couldn't see him. I was like, oh, it's really weird. And I didn't want to sit back in the same position because he came from behind me. I was like, I didn't want to sit with my back. So I sat in another chair. And I was like, after about half an hour, the DJ came down. And he's like, you ready? I'm like, yeah, cool. So we got up. Same thing happened again. This guy just appears out of nowhere, fluffing my, like, squaring the pillows back up. And I'm like, that's really weird. It was just, like, the only thing, like, obviously he wasn't, but the only thing I was like, was he just like lying behind the sofa? Or where was that guy hiding? So yeah, that's my random my random story.
Crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
It was an odd one. How the other half lived, and then you go out of this building, and then there's people asking you for change on the street. True story, and just as an add-on for that, because it does sound like a grand thing. On the last day, because anytime I went out, I'm a smoker, by the way. Anytime I went out for a cigarette, the people coming up for you asking you to buy them rice, which is a con, by the way, because they're getting you to buy rice from one of the family members. So you're basically just giving them money for rice, which they then give back and you buy it again. It was weird, actually. Like, whilst we were one of the earlier days, whilst we were in a cab, this girl had to only been like 7. They've got no fear out there, like no fear at all. Had to be like 7 or 8. Reached through the window of the cab asking the DJ, the guy I was with, for money, just, like, whilst the cab's moving. It was crazy. But on the last day, because everything was obviously comped, I literally got a carrier bag, scooped up everything off the minibar, like, into this carrier bag, just walked outside and just went, anyone? And then someone came and was like, oh yeah, thank you. I was like, yeah, well,
that's cool. That's really
might as well give it away.
Absolutely. What a nice gesture. You are a nice guy. You are such a nice guy.
I try. I try and give off what I'd want to receive. So.
Mark, like I say, it's been an absolute pleasure. Now, where can people connect with you? I'm going to put social media links at the bottom. Where's the best?
Facebook, Instagram. Instagram's Marc Lavelle Magician. I think, yeah, Marc Lavelle Magician on pretty much everything.
Okay, and if people
spelled awkwardly. My mother must have had a sense of humor, just like, one day this guy's going to have to be found on Google.
If people struggle to, if people are new to magic, are they okay to message you and reach out to you?
Yeah, just if you see me on a forum, it's probably best to tag me there first, like on a Facebook post, because and you're probably the same. The other inbox on Facebook. Someone put on a post that they dropped me a message, and I had a look, it wasn't there. I went into my other, I had like 70 messages, a load of fake ones, but I was like, oh man, so it took me like half an hour to go through them. But yeah, if you're after any information, guidance, whatever, I pretty much respond regularly. But try and tag me in a post if you see me post. Just go, I'll drop you a PM, because otherwise, it just gets lost in the Facebook algorithm.
Mark, thank you so much. You are amazing, and I know
it's good to catch up with you, man.
Man, yeah,
we're gonna have to get that coffee when we're freed up, and
I'll come down. I'll come down Birmingham when you're back from the Maldives and I'm allowed to leave the house.
Sounds like a plan.
We'll go and have well, in the UK, assuming the roadmap is stuck to, pubs are allowed to open on the 12th of April, which is my birthday. So I'm thinking that's got to be fate, right? They're opening up the country on my birthday, so.
It's got to be done.
We'll have to do something, definitely. So we'll definitely grab a drink. But again, guys, make sure you reach out to Mark. He's got a wealth of experience. He's an amazing guy. And if you haven't already, go check out Kane or his At the Table lecture. Skynet is absolutely brilliant. Changeling is everything you've brought out is brilliant. So go check out his products. And Mark, thank you once again.
Appreciate it.
Guys, make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be back tomorrow with 3 videos. There'll be a shorts at 2, there'll be a magic live at 6, and then there'll be something else in the evening at 9. So I'll see you then. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye, everyone.